Well, welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm Sean Palmer. I don't know where Seth Kamens is. He's probably on his way here on Back Sports Page, blog. We're not on Blog Talk, StreamYard. I should get used to that after a while. It's been, I don't know, a couple of months at this point. Just to give you a little background on the show, I'm Sean Palmer, SU Lawyer 2001 on Twitter. My co-host is Seth Kamens, S. Kamens on Twitter. You can find us at Seth and Sean Sports, also on Twitter and on Facebook. And we occasionally write for Back Sports Page. And we've been doing this for about 8 years now. And yeah, you'll find us here every week. Just to give you a little of the programming notes that are coming up. This week, we are obviously going to be doing what we're doing right now. And that is well, Seth is still on the phone, so we'll bring him back. Here he is. So that's Seth Kamens. So yeah. Just to give a little what we're doing in the next couple of weeks. Next week we are going to be talking about name, image, and likeness. We're going to we got the assistant compliance officer from George Mason that will be joining us at 5:45. It may be a 5:30 to 6:30 show. We're going to see how that works because he's only able to join us after a basketball practice at 5:45. I know that Randy Zelia is looking to get us some other guests, but we're really going to deep dive into this name, image, and likeness.
Right. And look, we don't typically do guests because we just don't. We enjoy doing the banter back and forth. But this is really revolutionary, going to be revolutionary in college sports. And typically we wouldn't want a compliance director, let's be honest. Unless they're maybe Sean Miller's compliance director in Arizona would be fun. But the reality is, with everything going on, you see Master P's kid is getting $2 million. And there's so many questions out there about how this, short term, no one's going to really know the long term. So we're kind of curious about how this is going to play out. And the people who are going to probably have the best feel are the compliance people. So now, as a professional compliance person, I guess that makes I can understand.
Yeah, and that's true. And So let's get it from both sides, right? So we know what the athletes are going to get, right? We know how that's going to work. You can license your name, your image, obviously, and your likeness. I mean, it's called NIL for a reason. But how is this going to impact the schools? Is it going to make their jobs easier? Is it going to make it harder? I don't really know the answer to that question. How would it be
easier?
Well, easier because you can just throw your hands up and say everything is good. If you're opening the doors, Seth, and the doors are wide open, then compliance really, with regards to name, image, and likeness, doesn't have anything to do. Now, right. I don't believe the doors are wide open, and I think that's where you and I are looking for a little bit of guidance from these guests that we will have as to what are the limitations. Because I've read a lot about it, but I can't find for the life of me other than you can't give incentives based on coming to campus, which I think is absolute nonsense if you think that that's actually going to, as you pointed out, we'll give you $50,000 on Cameo if you come to Alabama, right? So, no, it's not technically for you to come to Alabama, but it's from an Alabama booster. How do you deal with that? So the question is, how does this affect the college landscape? And how does it affect the schools in policing? And I think it'll be a very interesting conversation when we have that. So we'll be having, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get the gentleman's name. I reached out to him today. We will be having Malcolm Grace, the Deputy Compliance and NCAA Governance Director for George Mason University. And he's an SU grad, actually. So that look.
Of course he is.
Well, because I reach out to my network, right? My network is normally SU grads and whatnot. And it was somebody I found on LinkedIn, and I was like, look, he was happy to help us out. He just said, look, I got a basketball practice till 5:45. I was like, well, I really can't ask you to skip George Mason basketball. So I'm not sure summer basketball really takes place, so I'm actually kind of interested in what's going on during the summer.
That means, yeah,
right, exactly. Well, but we'll get into that, and I know Randy Zelia is also going to help us out and hopefully get a couple of guests. We're going to spend the whole show next week on this because I really believe, as Seth said, this is one of the since Title IX. this is the most revolutionary thing in college sports as to the impact. And the week after is our famous NBA draft preview, which
bound to go wrong.
Well, and the thing is that's interesting is normally we do this on Tuesday and the draft is on Thursday. Now we shift to Wednesday. So we got one more day to figure out how confused we are as to where these players are going to go. The Knicks having 2 picks in the first round. The Pelicans also having 2 picks in the first round. Golden State having 2 picks in the first round. The Magic having 2 picks in the first round. And the Rockets having 2 picks in the first round. So, and as we have said before, the Pelicans, the Thunder, and the Rockets have at least 50% of all first-round picks in the next 5 years. So so it's absurd, but given the amount of teams that have 2 picks, Seth, do you see a lot of trading going on, or do you see less trading going on because of that?
I think you're looking at different issues based on team. Houston, I don't see trading them because Houston is the worst, one of the 3 or 4 worst teams in the league. They're not going to be a playoff. They're probably not a playoff threat, or at a minimum, they're not a top 4 threat, a conference champion threat.
Well, hold on. Let's explain where these picks are, right? So Houston's got the number 2 pick in the draft. I believe they have the number 29 pick in the draft.
Okay. So they're supposedly trying to trade up to number 1. That's been a rumor. I'm assuming to take Cade Cunningham. I don't know who else it could be for.
Well, it wouldn't be for anybody. I can't believe it would be for anybody else because anybody else would fall to 2.
That would be my guess.
Yeah.
So now I don't think Detroit's trading this pick, period. I don't. They haven't had a superstar. When was the last superstar from Detroit?
Yep. Keep going. Just keep going. Like, I mean, Isaiah Thomas.
No. Okay. You want to say Chauncey? You want to say?
No. I don't want to say. I don't want to say.
You want to say
Grant Hill? Grant Hill. Sure. Grant Hill was probably the last one. Yep.
Okay. So that's not going to happen. Trading 29 doesn't mean it doesn't change the needle one way or the other. But you look at Houston, they have John Wall, who they're going to try and trade or buy out. They're going to try and trade Eric Gordon because he doesn't help you on a team that's 20 and 50. They just need talent. And so they need youth and just do a full rebuild. Orlando has 5 and 8. They have a new coach, Jamal Mosley, coming over from Dallas. They traded Vucevic. They traded Fournier. They traded Gordon. Again, unless you're trading up for number 2 or number 3, and you don't think Suggs or Green is going to fall that far to 5, they're not going to trade up to 1. Well, maybe they do. Maybe they do 5, 8, and Wendell Carter or something like that. But realistically, as I said, I don't think Detroit's trading the pick. So I don't think Orlando trades. I think Golden State may trade. They have 7-14, and they're not infatuated with James Wiseman. They're a little bit different.
Well, let's talk about this. So if you're one of those top 4 teams, so you are Detroit, Houston, number 3 is Cleveland. And number 4 is Toronto. Are any of those teams trading out of the top 4 slots?
I could see Toronto trading out. I don't, if really incentive, because you have really the top 4 or
right.
5.
That's why I said the top 4. Right. I'm looking at top 4 here.
You have Green. You have Mosley, Evan Mobley. I forget exact pronunciation. I forget if it's an S or a B. You have Jalen Suggs, and you got Cade Cunningham. Those are most likely your top 4.
Correct.
Maybe Scotty Barnes jumps in. Maybe Jonathan Kuminga jumps in. But most likely, that's your top 4. Detroit's not going to the playoffs next year. Houston's not going to the playoffs next year. Cleveland's not going to the playoffs next year. Toronto very well could. So in Toronto has a lot of young talent. Lowry's probably gone. You may do a sign and trade with him. But you have Anunoby. You've re-signed Van Vliet. You have Siakam. if you can, I can see Toronto trading out of 4 for maybe a young guard to kind of supplement to help to be the next backcourt for the next 4 or 5 years if they're not infatuated with Suggs, who I think is the one who's going to fall to 4. That's where I could see the trade coming if it's going to happen.
Okay, so now you're looking, but in order to do that, in order to trade out of 4, you're probably looking for a team that you have to find a partner, right? You have to find a team that's willing to do that. And remember, when you're trading draft picks and you're acquiring players, the only way that you are doing that if you are Toronto for a young player, like I'm using Michael Porter as an example. I don't believe Michael Porter's on the agenda, but you're looking at matching salaries in there too. And if you're talking about including Kyle Lowry in a sign and trade, that's one way to do it. But what are you getting for the number 4 pick, right? So we're talking about these multiple. No, but I'm saying we're talking about these multiple draft picks, right? So when you're looking at all those teams, including the Knicks at 19 and 21, you're looking at those multiple draft picks. And the only way that I see any of those guys trading those multiple draft picks is either in a Damian Lillard scenario or trading up into the top 4. And you have said you believe only one team is willing to trade into that 4. So
no, one team is willing to trade down.
Willing to trade out. Sorry, trade out of that 4. So you're looking at what Toronto would want from those teams with multiple picks. Would a Wendell Carter 5 and 7 work for Toronto? It might. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, wait a minute. No. For Toronto, I think that's a no-brainer because literally you're trading 5 and 7 in a still a young prospect for 4.
Well, let's say even if it's 5 and Wendell Carter, I'm saying you're looking at a team that's trading out, right? So you need a partner. Yes. So if you're Toronto and you think that one of those guys, and I can't remember, the guy from Connecticut or somebody like that
James Bouknight.
If James Bouknight is worth the fit, is not a huge drop-off from Jalen Suggs, and you're willing to take on a Wendell Carter, does that work? And it might.
It may. I mean, you may say, okay, Golden State. You may look at Davion Mitchell from Baylor and say, look, this is the guy I want, and I can probably get him at 7, which is Golden State, or at 8, which is Orlando.
Sure. I don't think Orlando's got unless Orlando is trading both their picks. I don't see anybody that they have that Toronto would want.
No, Wendell Carter was the guy.
Oh, okay. Okay. Wendell. Okay. Fair.
Otherwise, Jonathan Isaac's been injured 3 years in a row.
Right.
Nobody wants Markelle Fultz. And so the team is, I mean, look, that is the ultimate rebuild at that point. So, excuse me. But you asked which of the 4 teams is the most likely in my mind to trade. It's Toronto because they're one player away from being back in the playoffs.
Sure.
Most likely. But I think that player is very well could be Suggs.
Correct. And Suggs then is, as I have explained numerous times on numerous different broadcasts, the most valuable thing in any professional sport is a good rookie on a rookie contract.
Yep. Because
Luka Doncic is the most valuable player in the NBA based on his contract and his skill right now. And he may very well be the most valuable player in any sport based on his contract and his skill.
In a year,
right
that'll be,
right.
But for now,
yep. In a year, it'll be DeAndre Ayton, who will be the most. He's on the same time frame.
Same year,
right? But it'll be the next rookie, right? It'll be Trevor. It'll be Trevor Lawrence on his rookie contract for $34.6 million over 5 years, which is ridiculous. But that's the paid. That's the world we live in, exactly. But let's look at some of those teams that are lower on the totem pole, and you're looking at the Knicks at 19 and 21. You're looking at some of those other teams. I don't know, other than and look, we're not sure Damian Lillard's even available, but looking at those players that you're talking about, who would be on that list of guys that you would say, yes, I'll trade a first-round pick for them? Like, you look at like a Thaddeus Young. Is he one of those guys? And not a top 10 pick, but I mean.
No, maybe the Nets would do it. at pick 27 or 28. You're not drafting. You're not. That's 27. You're not trading for Thaddeus Young, a top 15 pick. But if you think you're one player of a solid depth player away from a championship, hence the Nets, what are they? They don't care about the draft picks this year.
And by the way, Thaddeus Young is only available in the sign and trade. So when you're talking about these teams like the Nets or talking about Golden State, you're looking only at James Wiseman needs to be in there, or Jordan Poole needs to be in there. You need those guys in there to ballast up the salaries. So I'm interested to see, like, did the Knicks really need two rookies? Not at 19 and 21.
No,
but they need talent. So look, the draft is meant to supplement teams that need talent, right? Cheap talent. So does it give them talent? Sure. If they hit on 1 out of 19 and 21, they win. I mean, Bill Belichick's theory has always been, I'm going to throw as many darts at the dartboard because that's what the draft is. And I completely agree. You can have a number 1 pick that flames out and a number 3 pick that's amazing. And you can have a second round pick win the MVP. Oh, wait, we did that this year. Have a second round pick that won the MVP. Meanwhile, nobody in the top 10 garnished a vote from that year. So it is a lottery in every sense of the word. When Kane Cunningham could flame out tomorrow. I don't think it will happen, but it could. It can conceivably happen. And so we have game 4 tonight. I was about to say game 6 because it just thinks this has been going on forever. When you have 2 days in between, like I was waiting for the game last night, and I was like, no.
So was I. We got
an all-star game. It's not on. They're never going to put a finals game against an all-star game. It's just not going to happen. And so definitely a boost when you play at home. Right? Milwaukee saw that, especially Giannis, who didn't have to think about counting down from 10 or counting up from 1 to 10 when he's at the foul line. Brian Windhorst on the Low Post, which I listen to regularly, said that he believes that home court is a 4-point swing. That's what he used, a 4-point swing.
I mean, think about it. When you look at betting lines, football, it's usually a field goal. The NBA, which has more 4 or 5 points, makes sense. I think it may be more in this, especially this year.
And Milwaukee was just as nuts as Phoenix, right? I mean, it is.
They haven't been to an NBA. They haven't hosted an NBA title game since 1971.
I got to tell you, the people outside of Milwaukee, outside the stadium, were more people than were in my town growing up. I mean, just in that that 6 square block radius, it's quite impressive. And again, as we are moving forward with vaccines and moving forward with health, just compared to a year ago, where you wouldn't have 23 people in a place, let alone 23,000 people in a place. This is absolutely invigorating watching. And so, are you picking Milwaukee to win tonight and go back 2-2?
Yeah, I do. I am. I think people get too. I think people get too high and too low on each individual game. The series wasn't over when Phoenix went up 2-0 at home, although it is obviously hard to win 4 out of 5. I've said all along. I thought this. I think I forget who I picked. I think this is a toss-up series, which is easy to say at 2-1. I think I took Phoenix in 6 or 7. I was hoping, but was rooting for Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee ties it up. We were talking about, we talked last week about how Giannis was not a superstar, and then he puts up 40 and 10 and 40 and 10. Middleton looked good last week. Well, in the last game, excuse me. And the team needs more depth. You need to see Holiday score more. You need Lopez. You need the depth to work. And, on Phoenix's side, they pretty much conceded the game in the third quarter. Devin Booker didn't play in the fourth. Everyone else was out 3 minutes in. I think we're looking at, this is a really pretty tight series, a pretty tight series. And it should
Yeah,
I'm just going to sit back and enjoy.
yeah, and so DeAndre Ayton getting into foul trouble really messed with Phoenix.
Yes, it did.
3 fouls I believe in the second quarter really messed with them and their game plan. And as I watch DeAndre Ayton, I guess the word is mature, right? I mean, he looks like he's 50, but I mean, mature in the fact
he is very Greg Oden-ish.
that's exactly what I was going to say. He as he matures and as he learns to play better, and Monty Williams and Chris Paul have been tremendous influences as we have seen this year. He's growing into Amari Stoudemire, Seth. This guy looks and feels he's a better defender than Stoudemire. He's probably not as fast as Stoudemire was, but he runs.
He's explosive enough, though.
He runs. Love watching him on the pick and roll, where it just reminds me of Nash and Stoudemire Act 2, but it doesn't happen in the first 8 seconds, which is nice to see. I mean, it might take the whole shot clock for him to get there, but the second coming of that type of pick and roll is fantastic, and has my opinion of him has certainly grown in the playoffs, but that might be just because I've watched him.
Well, I was going to say, you've seen him more. How many Phoenix games have you watched in the last 2, 3, 5 years?
Well, and I think that's the thing, right? So when East Coast bias is taught, when people say East Coast bias, I don't think it's a bias.
No,
I think it's a matter. Right, exactly. Look, I barely make it to the start of that 10:30 game, let alone the end of that 10:30 game. So it's just.
Well, you have to get up at 4 a.m. for God knows what reason. I usually I get to about the third or fourth quarter, depending on the game. In the playoffs, I see most of it, but I watch.
Yeah, I have watched every NBA playoff game, like every game in the last 2 rounds, and I start to finish. And it's good basketball. Like, more than anything else, I enjoy watching good basketball. And this is incredibly detailed. Look, when you have Chris Paul running the point, it's really hard not to have good basketball. I mean, he's going to let you know if you're not playing well.
It's been fun because the teams have been different, and it's bringing Trae Young to the forefront, and Giannis to the finals, and Chris Paul and Devin Booker. Devin Booker, a buddy of mine who's relatively knowledgeable, was telling me how overrated Devin Booker has been. And I said, you've never watched him play. How the hell can he be overrated if you've never seen him play? Can you accuse him of being overrated if you haven't seen him play? The dude is just cold.
And what about him is overrated?
Oh no, I completely shot him down on it because it was a point. What is overrated? Until this year, no one has given him much thought. Let's be honest. He plays the game the right way. He doesn't bitch and moan. He shoots. He's an incredible shooter. And he just has better talent surrounding him. I don't know what's to dislike about him.
Look, is he a complete guard? No, he's not.
No.
He's not a complete guard, right? He's not a defense. It's funny. I've had this conversation with people that say I would rather have a Devin Booker than a Chris Paul because I want a bigger guard than a smaller guard. And I can understand
completely different positions.
Right. I can understand that, but you can't play with a mediocre point guard if you don't have a shooting guard that plays defense. And Devin Booker, it may grow into that. He certainly can. He's 23 years old. I mean, this guy he's been in the league since he's 20, but I mean, he's still 23. He's not a lockdown defender by any stretch right now, but that can grow, right? You don't have to do that.
You don't expect an offensive number one player, a top 15 scorer in the league, to be a lockdown defender, because if you do, then you're looking at a potential MVP candidate.
Right, you're talking about Kobe Bryant, right? Yeah. That's who you're talking about.
Kobe's as good as any, and that's top 10 to 15 player of all time. I actually Nabate on my list.
What list is this?
My top 50 list.
I'm sorry to hear that. Anyway, so moving on. I'm sure you got an argument on about 30 of them.
No, only 2 or 3. It wasn't too bad. I kept it. I said I'll tell you the story during my 5 minutes.
That's fine.
It was a pretty interesting day.
So anyway, I think you're right. I think Booker has definitely more talent, and he also has another guy in the backcourt that can shoot.
Yes.
I mean, and that takes a lot away from the pressure of him being the only shooter.
Yeah, you're not double teaming him because you have Paul who's been shooting beautifully. You have Jay Crowder who can shoot the three. You have Mikal Bridges who can shoot. And if you're doubling him, then Ayton's going to be one-on-one, and with he's just too big for a lot of these guys. It's a very tough team to defend.
Oh, there is no weakness in this team. Now, does that mean that they are going to win? No, not necessarily. Where you don't have a weakness doesn't necessarily mean you have a strength.
Right.
They don't have a weakness. They are above average at every position. They are above average at what they do for every facet of the game. But when you lose,
I don't know if they're above average at the 3-4 at this point.
But what? No, hold on. But what does not the position necessarily 3-4? What does Crowder do? What Crowder does is above average, right?
Crowder and Bridges are different versions of 3 and D guys.
Correct.
And they are above average for a 3 and D guy.
Yeah. And I think that right, it's what they bring to the table. You have an above average shooting, you have above average rebounding, you have above average playmaking, you have above average inside play and outside play. You have an above average defensive play. Whether you are looking at it 1 through 5, I think is that's like saying who's a better baseball team. Well, we got Don Mattingly and Dave Winfield, and we got Darryl Strawberry and Keith Hernandez. Well, you know what? That doesn't matter. Which is a better baseball team? It doesn't. The individuals.
You were saying position by position.
Sorry, I meant the individuals are not the sum, right? The sum is the sum. Yeah. And so there is no weakness unless Ayton goes out. There's your weakness. And because then you're bringing in Frank Kaminsky.
Or Jalen Smith.
Has Jalen Smith played? Okay. I was just making sure because I didn't think I missed the beanpole, but it's definitely possible.
You did. No, it's not possible. No.
But he might get a ring in his rookie year.
He may get a ring.
And Torrey Craig will definitely get a ring. Because he played half the year on Milwaukee, and now he plays half the year on Phoenix.
Half the year in Milwaukee?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he started the year in Milwaukee. He got traded for cash.
Did he really? I guess.
And now he's going to take a. He's going to get a ring either way.
He was in Denver,
right? And then he signed as a free agent. Yep.
I didn't realize it was with Milwaukee.
Yeah, so he. I'm going to look it up right now as to how many games he played on both teams. But he played 18 games with Milwaukee and 32 games with Phoenix. So that man gets a ring no matter what. So good on him. I mean, I think he would prefer to win with Phoenix rather than with Milwaukee. So. But yeah, his injury showed a little bit of a depth problem with that team, and that they played only seven guys in game 2. 7 guys, and you had to see Frank Kaminsky, which was not a welcome sight for any Phoenix fan.
No, unless you went to Madison, it's not really a. Wisconsin still loves them.
So tonight's game, Milwaukee wins. We go back 2-2, right? That's the way we look at it.
Yep.
So let's switch gears a little bit to the team that is down 1-2 in international play, and seems that they can't get their grasp until last night, where they blew out a team by 28. Look, I don't think this is an issue. I've said this 1,000 different ways. I think the one thing that the team is missing, and I think it's played out in both of their losses, is they don't have a point guard anywhere on that team except for Drew Holiday, who's currently playing in the NBA Finals. Yeah. So they don't have a guy, and I know some people say it's an overrated aspect to the game. I don't believe that having a floor general is automated.
Especially not in international play.
Right.
Because Lillard is a combo, but he's so much of a scorer that it doesn't really fit. But you look around, who would be the point guard that you would take?
I mean, well, you have Holiday, right? I mean,
right, but Holiday's a very good player. But is there Is there? I mean, Stephen Curry's not there, and Stephen Curry's even kind of a mixed.
I take Chris Paul, right? I mean, I take Chris Paul with
Yeah.
that in a heartbeat. I mean, would you take John Wall?
No, I wouldn't take John Wall.
Look, I'm not saying over any of these guys, right?
No.
I'm just saying John Wall is the type of guy that pushes the pace, plays the defense, maybe doesn't shoot as much. Like, he's a guy that I look at that could play that role. DeAndre Fox is another guy.
That's the fit.
That's the fit.
That's
but
the
DeAndre
fit.
Fox is not proven enough to play with these guys
Right.
right
No,
now.
I understand that. I'm just trying to go through the teams off the top of my head.
I think it's Fox. I mean, it wouldn't even be Donovan Mitchell. Like, I don't want that.
He's a two guard. He's
He's Damian Lillard. He's just another Damian Lillard. You need a Jason Kidd type player, and that is a DeAndre Fox, or obviously I'm going to pick a guy that's not on the team and can't be, is Ricky Rubio. Like, somebody like that is a pass-first guy. I don't need the ball in my hands. And while Kevin Durant does a very good job of imitating Larry Bird as a point forward, his first desire has always been to shoot.
Because he's an amazing shooter.
Yeah.
And you can't begrudge him for it. You can begrudge him for a lot of other things, but you can't begrudge him for that. Yeah, look, I agree. I'm not overwhelmingly concerned. And this, at some point, you're going to, I mean, I just kind of laugh that you're going to look at an offense because remember, you have three guys that are coming over. Middleton, who should, with his mid-range game, should fit the international game very well.
Yep.
Booker, who is just, could be the best shooter in the world. And if he's not, it's probably Bradley Beal.
Who's also on the team.
Exactly. And who am I forgetting? Oh, Drew Holiday, who's going to be your point.
Drew Holiday. Right.
Right. You do have a lot of these. The problem is, as good, as talented as this team is, and it's going to be extraordinarily fun to watch once they get kind of their groove going, is Beal and Lillard and Booker. I mean, they're just shooters. That's what they are.
Yeah. Well, this is let's outscore them, right?
Yeah.
But the point that we were trying to make, the point that I was trying to make about Phoenix is the same here. First of all, you can only play 5 of these guys at any one time.
Is that the rules? Is that the rules for basketball?
Generally, that's the rule for basketball. Second of all, maybe not hockey sometimes, as there were 6 players on the ice at times when the Islanders got scored upon. But we won't talk about that. But second, yeah, I know, I'm well aware. But secondly, it is the sum. It's not the individuals. And when it comes to especially when it's a USA team where you could lights out fire. I mean, you could just put an NBA team on that floor and they'd probably score more points. And including the Orlando Magic, might be able to score more points than most international teams. The problem is when you take a bunch of all-stars, we see this in every all-star game. There is no defense. And there is no playmaking. It's let's play volleyball with the ball until it goes into the basket. I mean, that's the way it works.
Other than Durant, what players, I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head, who else has played on an Olympic team before?
Kevin Love.
Yeah. I don't have the team in front of me.
Yeah, I'm going to get that up. So, all right, USA basketball roster. So, let's go through this. Bam has not. Bradley has not. Booker has not. Durant has. Yeah, Durant has.
Mm-hmm.
No Jeremy Grant. Draymond Green?
I think so.
Yeah. Zach LaVine, no. Lillard, no. Love, yes. Middleton, no. Tatum, I believe Tatum did.
No, not on 16.
No?
He played on the 18 World Cup team.
Okay. So there aren't many.
It's a very young team for international. Remember, the Nigerian team, they played together they played together 200 games over 4 years. They all these teams play together. And this was the issue we've seen in the past with Spain when they beat us a couple of years ago. These teams played together for many, many years. This is pushing everyone together and within a week trying to meld a team together. And you don't have LeBron or, in as funny as it sounds to me saying, Carmelo, who took on a different role in a leadership capacity, having been there before. The leadership falls on Durant here. It has to. Because
Yeah.
Green is Love is a supplemental player. Green a supplemental player. Durant is the only star who's come back.
Yep.
And there have been questions about his leadership in a variety of times previously. This is where, again, I'm not worried about him. I'm not worried about about this, but this has to be reflected in 2 weeks when we're playing France in the first game, which is a team with the talent to beat us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it is just, it's just time to mesh and whether there is enough time, right? And look, we've discussed this before, and COVID really, the unfortunate, a byproduct, that's a better way of saying it. A byproduct of COVID is that the USA basketball team has not worked together. When Jerry Colangelo started this way back when, 20 years ago, right? The goal, or 15 years ago, the goal was 2004. Okay, 16 years ago. The goal was to get a group of players that would play in the World Cup, then would play exhibitions, so they would be able to mesh. And what we're getting today is the exact same thing we got before that started, which was we're just going to throw together a bunch of players and say, go play. And that doesn't work. It has never worked. So
it has worked in the 80s and the 70s and 92 and 96.
Okay. It has worked it has not worked since the world has caught up in some fashion to USA basketball. Yeah. And that's not saying they're all caught up, but they certainly have made inroads. I mean, look, I would say one of the top 3 players in the NBA right now is not an American. That's Luka, and that has not happened, except for.
And you could put 2 of the 3 because you can put Giannis there. Sure. I know you wouldn't, but
yeah,
people can put them.
You could. So it will be. I hate saying it will be interesting because it's something we always say, but the fact is, I'm interested in seeing if this meshes. Well. Okay, I'm looking forward.
Way to change around the grammar.
How about this one? I'm looking forward to seeing if it meshes. Is that better?
Sure.
Fine. I believe it will mesh. There's my prediction. I believe it will mesh.
Way to go out on that ledge, man.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so moving on to other international things, one of which I have absolutely no idea about. Messi and Barcelona agree to a new deal. There's a lot of soccer going on this week. Euro Cup happened, which I actually watched. And so
were your friends the people that were rioting at Wembley?
No, but my Twitter blew up. My Twitter absolutely blew up. So while this is going on, and the fans of the show know, I cannot stand penalty kicks. I cannot stand shootouts. I cannot stand that as a means for an ending of a game. I have said this 1,000 times why, but I'm happy to say it again as to why. Because, quite frankly, it has no place in the game. A shootout is a penalty kick inside the box. And my point was...
It's like winning on a free throw contest.
Correct. Except for free throws actually do occur during the game. While a penalty kick, which what I said on Twitter was very simply, this sucks. I was like, I said it in a nicer way. So Mike Greenberg said, we'll discuss this loudly. I'm not sure how wrong you are, to somebody that said the penalty kick shootout is the greatest climax in sports. And my response was the worst. A whole game determined by something that never happens in a damn game. I say the same thing about hockey shootouts. Give them a couple of more subs and keep going. And make it a game of an attrition. Give them a break, a 20-minute break, and come back and play more. Maybe give them 3 more subs, maybe take a player off the field and play it that way.
You can go, to me, you go golden goal.
But golden goal's fine, but you may play 3-4 more, period. Okay.
I have no problem with if for soccer OT you take a player off after every 15 minutes. I have no problem with this. Was look from a from a I can't think of the word. Look, the energy was, the electricity of it. The Jesus Christ, I can't believe I can't think of the word. It was incredible to watch, but it's not the game. Yeah, and the game should be decided on a real goal, just like
Yeah.
hockey should be decided on a real goal.
And in the playoffs, it absolutely is. If you want to do this, it's funny because I think hockey switches with soccer, right? Penalty kicks decide regular season games, and golden goal decides the playoff game. Well, it's pretty much the flip side here, but you're willing to end in a tie.
Right, but during the regular season, I don't care.
But that's my point, right?
Right.
That's my point.
Would you prefer to have the shootout or a tie in regular season?
A tie. 100% a tie. I don't think the NHL would prefer to have it a tie.
No, because it's not incentivizing for.
Right.
You need to incentivize fans. No one's ever going to be incentivized to watch a tie.
Correct. So my question was, tell me how many PK. So I got, I don't know, crapped on by many people that said this does happen in the game all the time. And I said, please show me how many penalty kicks in the box happen during a game. And the answer was 0.5. For every 2 games, there is 1 in the box. Okay, I get that. That makes sense. It does happen in a game.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Do you know how many goals are scored on penalty? The percentage of success in a penalty kick situation, Seth?
I would guess about 85%.
You are it's 80%. 80.6. You're pretty good. Do you know the percentage of shots that actually score outside of penalty kicks?
15%.
Very good. 14.6.
Damn.
Well done, sir. That is very good. By the way, I love the shirt. The shirt's great.
Thanks.
Yeah. So 14.6. You cannot tell me, and I know you agree with me, you cannot tell me that 14.6% of shots and 80% of shots are the same. Because that's
do I need to pull out my 2 masters and my CPA to figure that out?
No, but my point is it's not the game, right? It's not the game. And when I compare it to hockey, I'm just saying it's not the game. I'm not saying the games are the same. In fact, somebody said, I think they called it a hockey ring, and said people going around a hockey ring are not the same as people running up and down the field. And at that point, I gave no credence to the guy that said a hockey ring. You basically lose all credibility by calling it a hockey ring. I just don't see how this is a good outcome. And if you want to say for the fans, it was
the excitement.
climactic.
The excitement is incredible.
Would the excitement be any less?
Yeah, because the game could go on for another 45 minutes,
much like hockey does, and the game is not any less exciting.
No,
knowing that only if it's golden goal, right? Only if it's golden goal.
When you know there's going to be a culmination within 3 minutes. The excitement is as opposed to something going on for 2 extra
That's
hours. True. You can go 4 overtimes in hockey. We've seen it, Philly, Pittsburgh, many years ago. I mean, it's exciting, but at a certain point, it gets exhausting. Yes. This gives you a culmination in the most exciting way possible. So I get the value of it from an excitement standpoint, from a sport where there's 3 or 4 goals scored in a game, and that's considered high. But the reality is it doesn't answer who the best team is. I mean, Italy won penalty kicks in the Italy was probably the best team in the tournament, but Italy won penalty kicks in the semis, won penalty kicks in the final.
So they're very good at penalty kicks. They're very good. They're very good at penalty kicks.
Well, their goalie was sensational.
Correct.
He saved 3 of them against the UK. At least the Brazil-Argentina, this was a great soccer weekend. at least Brazil, Argentina didn't go to penalty kicks. Wasn't the most exciting game in the world, but it was nice to see Messi after I think it's 4 losses in championship finals. They had the Copa Americana, which is the South American version of the Euro Championship, on Saturday, and then you had the Euro Championship on Sunday. To see him actually win a cup for Argentina, which was great.
Well, and let's talk about Messi. So Messi signs a 5-year deal with who today?
Barcelona.
With Barcelona. He stays with Barcelona. There are other free agents out there. Is this the transfer period? Is this where I hear about free agents or
everything is going absurd right now?
That make gazillions of dollars that make no sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, you're looking at Harry Kane from Tottenham, who is the captain of the English team. He doesn't want to be in Tottenham. He wants to be in Man City. He wants to be in Chelsea. He wants to be in Man U. Tottenham wants anywhere between 100 and 200 million for him. You have Barcelona can't afford to sign anybody, so they're going to have So even with signing Messi, they're going to have to let people go. You have people who won World Cups. You have people who have won Players of the Year. The top 5 to 10 players of the year that are going to be changing countries, changing teams. It is the NBA free agency on like triple Red Bull. I mean, it's just absurd, and it can't be followed. And look, I follow the EPL. I know a little bit about Spanish. I know a little bit about Serie A in Italy, and I know a little bit about the French league, like a little bit. I don't know who 3/4 of these guys are. I can't keep up with all this. It's way too much. I mean, because you're not talking even 30 teams. You're talking literally 100 to 200 teams. And they all transfer within each other, which makes it really interesting and really fun, but very confusing.
Yeah, so while we don't have NBA free agency yet, which is generally our July 4th call, we don't have NHL free agency yet because that's generally our July 11th call.
It's usually a week I take off.
Right. We now have this lovely call about soccer free agency, of which I have no idea what it means. There are no salary caps, and guys are earning billions and billions of dollars.
Right. Well, there's that financial fair play.
What? Okay. So
we talked about this a year ago.
I know, but we need to go through it again because it makes no sense to me still. So run through it again. Run through it for those that were on Blog Talk, that were not on Blog Talk, that are now on StreamYard. What are we talking about here?
The gist of it is, it was created by UEFA, and it was established to make sure that pretty much these teams don't spend absurd amounts that they can't afford, and it's to keep some version of fair, for lack of a better term. We've seen issues with this. I'm just kind of reading it's just easier to read. Pretty much, the ex-president of UEFA called it financial doping, for lack of a better term, which I thought was actually pretty good. It is to keep some version of fair.
Obviously that's the title of it. So yeah, I get that.
I mean, practically, when you're going to spend $200 million to get the guy from France, Mbappe, who's at PSG, you're going to probably have to spend $200 to $250 million to get him. That doesn't include his salary.
So you're spending the equivalent of
Mike Trout.
Of a 1/4. No, Mike Trout was 340, but you're spending the equivalent of 1/4 of a franchise in 1/4 of the New York Mets, who are $1.2 billion, to buy a player, for the right to buy a player. Then you have to pay his salary, right? That's just to buy him.
Yep.
Oh, goody. Like, that just sounds... Yes,
I don't see you owning an English soccer team anytime soon.
No, I don't have the last name Sheik anywhere near my name. So, I mean...
Would that be the first name?
Not for me. I'd make it the last name, because if I'm a Sheik, I can say whatever I want.
You'll be Sean Sheik.
Sean Sheik. Look, it's like Jay-Z, except not. Anyways.
Very, very far from.
Very, very far from.
Very, very far from.
Yeah, okay, so Messi signs, right? Who's the next domino? Is there a domino?
There's a domino. Harry Kane, pretty much everything stops and goes with Harry Kane at this point, because he wants out. He played with Tottenham as a kid and raised through, became the best offensive player in the Premier League. But they made a Champions League final, but they've never won a cup. They've never won anything. He wants to go to a team where he can do that. So the question is, who's going to trade? Who's going to give up what to get him? He's also signed for 3 more years. So there's a very good chance they keep him.
Why would you trade him? Why?
Because he doesn't want to be there.
I don't want to be here, but that doesn't mean that I can demand that.
They're not saying they're going to trade him. They're saying, because look, if someone offers you $150 million plus 2 stud players, you got to consider.
Okay. So I've never heard of a soccer trade. I've heard of a soccer sale, but I've never heard of a soccer trade.
Transfer. So what often will happen is you'll have, it's not per se a trade, but you'll have someone go back and forth. You're gonna sell. I guess it is a trade. You're gonna sell Harry Kane to Man City for $125 million, and Raheem Sterling and Gabriel Jesus. Is it worth it? Probably not.
Is that common? Is it, like I said, I've never
really, really, because the reason that they do it is because they have to offset some of their costs, some of their salary costs. And if you're getting rid of the best offensive player in the Premier League, they need something to bring it. They need somebody. So usually it's just a sale, but occasionally there are players that are involved.
Yeah. No, I get it. I just had never heard of an actual trade in soccer ever. I understand the financial back and forth, right? So maybe I get the maybe this is based on the fair play BS that I just heard, but the fact is, we all know that $250 million for any player is ridiculous. I don't care what we term fair play. But the fact is, I've never heard of a soccer trade involving players. So that is a pretty interesting tidbit to me. So, All right. So last night we had an all-star game, which you did not watch and I did not watch, correct? Did you watch the home run hitting contest?
No, I saw what happened, though.
Okay, I certainly did. And I'll tell you, on Twitter, I picked Joey Gallo. So much. I know. I saw
you lost in the first round.
Lost in the first round, and I did own up to that right after he lost. As I said,
that's how I knew he lost.
That did not age well. And
is that going to be on freezing cold takes?
Yeah, maybe. But Pete Alonso sure did age well. That guy is a beast. And so I'm looking forward to. Look, next year we're going to have a universal DH, much to my chagrin. It will happen. And Pete Alonso will probably be the universal DH for the Mets. And how much is that going to limit his salary? He earned $2 million in the last 2 years from winning the 2 baseball home running hitting contests. His salary for the last 2 years is $619,000. So, yeah, it's a pretty good deal. I mean, when they were saying on the air that he donated $10,000 here and $10,000 there, I was like, he just earned $1 million. What does $10,000 do? Now I'm like, wait a second. He only earned $619 in 2 years. So that's actually almost more than triple his salary just in 2 contests. So good on him. All right, we got about 5 minutes left. I know you want to talk about Nabate and what he did today, so let's roll with that.
Well, I don't really need to talk about that too much. But I did have the fun of doing some media for the Cool in the Gang, the guy who run Robert Cool Bell golf tournament in Livingston. And we got to interview some cool people. Nabate, who we mentioned 1,000 times on the show. Sean's been on his TV show. I've been on his TV show. He's been on our radio show. We got to interview Otis Anderson. We got to interview Lawrence Taylor, which was honestly pretty cool. But no,
you were a fanboy.
I was not. I didn't say
with LT.
Didn't take a picture. Shook hands. No, I never act like a fanboy in these things.
No. I mean a fanboy even in your brain, where it's like, this is cool. I got
you shake hands with Lawrence Taylor as a Giants fan. It's cool. I'm
Right.
sorry. It
That's
just
what I'm
is.
saying. That's right.
But
I
I'm
don't
not
mean
going to
being
be, can I have an autograph? Can I have a picture?
No, I don't mean being unprofessional about it. I'm
I'm a
talking about
45-year-old guy. I'm just not. But no, he came back to my office. We were looking at the top 50 list. He didn't kill anything. I think he killed Shaq is too low at 19, one or two others, but he wasn't too bad. I don't know if you saw this. The guy who started the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge died.
oh, Pete
Yeah.
something or another.
Yeah. He raised $115 million in it. So, a terrible shame that he died, but a hell of a legacy.
It
And good for him. Not good for him. Good for what the legacy will exceed. Will go on forever. The charitable contributions will go on forever. And he certainly, there's no good way to say it, but he certainly made the best of the position he was in.
and when you're dealing with and Steve Gleason obviously is one of those as well. And those is a bad way of saying it. A person that is inflicted with that horrible disease ALS, which is also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, and for those that can bring attention to diseases like that, which are not, first of all, they're not quote cancer, right? Which everybody has heard of and everybody has done things for. ALS is disgusting. I mean, just the concept of living with ALS, for those that are unaware of what it is, your brain works just fine. Your body does not at all. And it eats you from the inside out. And so it is one of, it's rather hard to put into words how terrible a disease it really is. And when you have guys like Steve Gleason or guys like this guy Pete, and I can't remember for the life of me his last name, but that start these types of challenges and raise money and awareness for these types of diseases, you can only tip your cap and say thank you, because we will all at some point in our lives know somebody that is inflicted with a disease like this, and we only hope that more and more money is raised and success and treatment and eventually a cure will come from that. So, all right, as we said, I really don't have anything on the 5 minutes this week. I mean, that's shocking. I get it. But the fact is, I'll just preview next week again. We're going to have name, image, and likeness. Basically, wire to wire. I think we're going to go 4:30 to 5:30. If 5:30 to 6:30. If Seth can make it, we'll get that done. We'll get that done, and so we'll have a couple of guests. Because again, if you want to know anything about how this basically college sports is going to become free agency, tune in, because it's going to be a whirlwind of a summer, and every recruit right now is going to be saying what's in the bag, and I'm looking for.
I am a dope, which he actually died 2 years ago. I don't know why it popped up on my Twitter just now.
Okay, well then,
not my best moment.
But you know what? It doesn't matter. Like it matters in the fact that he died 2 years ago as opposed to today. But it doesn't matter in the information that we just gave and the note and the information that you should have with regards to this disease. Yep, so we'll talk to you all next week. And Seth, it was good talking to you. We'll see you next week.
Okay, have a good one.
All right, bud. See ya.
Bye.